Okay guys, I'm going to do a little video here on sound reinforcement PA systems. This is going to be for bands 0 to 300 people. And I'm just going to do some general discussion on how to put together one of these systems and purchase one first. And then I'm going to do a second video on how to actually set them up and adjust everything. Give you a little background. I've been playing in bands now for about 8 years. I've been building this PA system for about the same amount of time. Made a lot of mistakes, bought a lot of wrong stuff. There's so much information out there. Every store you go to, they tell you something different, usually just to sell stuff. So I'm going to hopefully save you some time and trouble here and give you a good explanation of everything and exactly what you do need to start out in a band and start putting together a nice PA system. What I got here is, in my current system, is a Mackie 16-channel mixer. Got 2 BBE compressors. Got a BBE 30 band EQ. Got Behringer crossover, 2 Carvin power amps. And I got the main subs and monitors, and 2 power conditioners. So now I'm going to go over each of these devices individually and tell you which ones you need, which ones you don't need, especially starting out. Now the first device you're going to need when you're putting together any kind of PA system, no matter how big or small, is a mixer. What this does is basically connects all your channels of audio, mixes them, and that's how the name mixer. It basically mixes all those to the appropriate levels, adds effects, EQ on some models, and then basically sends that down the signal chain. What you're going to want to look for is, if it's going to be a band, at least 8 channels, preferably 12 to start out with. If it's a 4-piece, probably going to need 16. Always plan for more channels than what you would think you would need, because you always end up needing a few extra channels as people start singing backup vocals. Drummer adds some drums to mic. You never know what's going to, even second guitar, acoustic guitars get added down the road. You always want to plan ahead. Some other things you want to look at for your mixer is, it's nice to have a built-in graphic EQ. I don't use this anymore, but if you're just starting out purchasing a system, save some money not having to buy an EQ to start out with having one built in. The other thing you want to look for is effects. The higher the bit rate, the better the effects quality. This is a 32 bit rate. It's stereo effects also, which is nice. And it gives you all your standard reverb, plate, delays, coarse, flange, and phaser. One other thing you would like to look for is if it would have subgroups. This has 4, but really they're 2 stereo, which I use them in 2 in stereo. The reason why is I found how you use them with 4 subs is you actually pan them left or right and then assign them to 1, 2, or 3, or 4. So basically left pan 1-2 would be group 1, left pan right would be 2, left pan left would be 3, 4. That's how you separate out over 4. What I found is you lose some gain and it still bleeds over a little bit, so I ended up just using stereo. Where the grouping really comes in nice is if you mic acoustic drums. If your drummer has acoustic drums and mics them, you can throw the drums on their own sub-channel, and you can basically adjust the volume of the entire drum set up and down to fit the mix after you get the drum set itself mixed in. So that's really nice. Some other nice features to look for is if it has a lamp connector. It's really nice to have a nice LED lamp to light it up on stage, especially if you're not using a snake and having your own sound guy, which you're probably not if you're just starting out. Tape inputs. I have an iPod connected for music in between sets. It's also a nice feature. Main inserts. Almost every mixer is going to have channel inserts, but it's nice to have main inserts. That gives you a insert to run your compression and your EQs through, And what's nice about running especially the compression through an insert as opposed to just running it on your main out into your compression, if you run it through your main out and you use your fader, your main mix volume, the higher your volume, the harder it's going to hit your compressor and the more it's going to compress. Where if you use your insert, it's going to be a steady input, audio input, so when you set up your compressor, adjusting your overall volume of your mix doesn't affect your compressor, and that's what you want. Next thing we got here is power amps. Now this is first place where you make a big decision. Most stores, and this is what they'll tell you, is they actually suggest you run stereo. So you'd have 3 amps basically. You'd have 1 amp running your stereo mains, 1 amp running your monitors, and then 1 amp running your subs. But this is really the more traditional, more common way that smaller club bands actually run their systems. And that basically uses 2 amps. And then you basically have 1 amp for your subs, which you bridge. And then 1 amp, which you run stereo. And then one side you use the input for monitors, one side you use the input for mains. This works out really well because what happens is you run this amp stereo 4 ohms, which is putting out its maximum power, and most PA speakers are 8 ohm, so you parallel wire those in to one side running 4 ohms, so that runs both your mains, and then you parallel wire both your monitors and the other side, which powers both your monitors. This eliminates 1 amp, it eliminates extra cost, heat, and also in most of the clubs that you're going to be playing at in bands this size are not going to have real good power, so it eliminates it eliminates 1 amp drawing plenty of current. These power amps draw a lot of current. Now what I went with here was an AB power and a Class D power amp for the subs. What the difference is between AB and Class D, Class AB and Class D, D is 95% efficient. What an amp basically does is take the amperage that it's drawing from current and produce watts to power your speakers. So that means basically out of the amps this amp is going to draw, 95% of that power is going to be converted into usable wattage, where this AB amps are typically about 65% efficient, so only about 65% of the amperage that it's drawing is going to actually be converted to wattage. One thing though is Class D amps usually are not as clean amps. They're usually not as clean a power. So I chose an AB because it's a little cleaner power for the highs, which really shows if it has a clean amp or not. Subs are not as so with subwoofers you can't tell as much if the amplifier is completely clean or not because there's no high end. The high end's really where you can tell the quality of the amp a lot better. And also the subs is going to push a lot more power, so you really take advantage of that Class D power a lot more with the subs. What I have here wattage wise is 2,000 watts bridged going to the subs. Top amp puts out 700 watts 4 ohms in stereo, so that's 350 watts per speaker for my mains and 350 watts per speaker for my monitors, which is plenty of power for, again, club size PA for this 0 to 300 people. And then the other device you're going to need is a crossover. That's basically going to send all your low frequencies to your sub amp and then cut those low frequencies out and send only your highs to your high amps. This makes this amp run a lot easier because it's not producing the bass, and it's also a lot easier on your speakers and allows them to handle more power. Moving up, this is actually a 30 band EQ. This is not something that's necessary to start out with, but down the road you're definitely going to want it. It really helps fight feedback. It's really a good tool for shaping your sound and helping engineer your sound to fight feedback, to get more watt, get more power out of your system. But like I said, if you purchase a mixer with a built-in EQ, you can get by with that to start with and save a little money when you're starting out. Also, compressor, fantastic effect, especially for vocals or acoustic drums, kick drum, lead vocals. It's really tough to get a good sound from a kick drum or lead vocals without a good compressor. I really like the BBE models because they include their full version of their sonic maximizer for the same price that you'd pay for a compressor from anybody else. I really get a lot of extra feature out of that just for the same price. That's why I went with the Maxcom. And the last thing is a power conditioner. And what that basically does is just tries to clean up the power. Again, like I said, playing in the clubs that you're going to be playing in with this size PA, a lot of them have real bad power issues. The power conditioner really cleans up the power, also doubles as like a surge protection, and gives you some nice lights also, so you can light up your effects rack and that, so you can see what you're doing to make adjustments on stage. Next up, we got your speakers. Now this is just your standard 15 and a horn. These are a great speaker. You really never grow out of them. You can always run them two-way if you want to put a three-way system in down the road. And also, what you should go with to start out with is just a single 18 on each side. You can get the dual 18 enclosures, but they get real big, heavy, and require a lot of power and add a lot of expense. And the single 18s for the clubs, like I said, once again, 0 to 300 people, a single 18 is plenty of power. These actually have the new Neo speaker magnets in, and they only weigh about 60 pounds. It's something else to look at when you're purchasing speakers. It's the weight of the enclosure, because you're going to be carrying these in and out on a nightly basis. Next up, we got monitors. You want to get at least 2 monitors, like I explained earlier, how you'd hook them up to your power amp. I use all Speakon connectors, speaker cables. These are wonderful. They're higher quality. A lot of the new speakers and amps only include Speakon connectors, opposed to the old 1/4-inch jacks. And they just lock in tight, and if somebody kicks them or pulls on the wire accidentally while you're playing, they're not going to come out. Now, as for microphones, you're going to want a quality microphone, and the best quality microphone I found for a low price is the Carvin M68 model. They sound pretty close to a Shure Beta 58, and they cost about $80. Overall, Carvin I can't say enough about their equipment. I've been using it for 8 years. They make fantastic equipment, made in the United States. They may not sound the best, but as far as bang for your buck and quality and just reliability, and they do sound very good, you can't beat Carvin. I recommend them highly, especially if you're just getting into building a system and you're starting out, trying to build a system at a low price. And okay, thanks for watching this video on just some of the items in a PA and what you need to have to start out. Next video, I'm going to actually explain a little better how you hook each of these devices up and what settings you're going to need to set them on to make your band sound pretty good. Thank you.